All right, we are back with another episode. We are back with Ashley as well. If you remember, she was on the podcast a few weeks ago talking about business. She wanted to
Yep.
come back. We're going to get a little bit more personal today, more of the insights into a soul vibe versus the business entrepreneur vibe. So, yeah, Ashley, we're just going to talk about your story. You've gone through a lot in life, and I think
Yep.
there's some things that have definitely helped shape you in the past several years to kind of where you are last episode.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back a little bit and talk about that. So just I know offline we talked about how, you've been through a divorce and stuff, and so I want to dive into that a little bit. So you can kind of set things up however you'd like. Because I really want to talk about the divorce, and then we can talk about maybe how, like, what you went through and how that has shaped you into now.
So,
Big question. Yeah. So
yeah, so I guess in order to talk about how what caused the divorce, I have to go back even further into what caused the marriage.
okay.
Uh, so I was 25 when I met my ex-husband. Um, so I'd had custody of my 14-year-old sister for a year at that point. Um, my dad had just committed suicide. And um I was vulnerable and fragile. Okay. And he treated me really good. So I told him no. Like I was because he had a daughter. And so I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't want to be a stepmom. But he was very persistent, and persistence, you know what they say. For 9 months. He just wooed me and would just was a friend, but you know, always had the intent for more, right? Until one day I caved, right? And was like, sure, let's see where this goes. Um, a decade later, almost, I definitely have different, not check boxes, but check boxes for lack of a better word, um, for a man now. So he did a lot of great things. Not saying that he's not a good person, because he's definitely is. I hope for the best for him. Um, But at 25, being that vulnerable and that broken, for lack of a better term, that was the best that I thought I could get. And so I did settle. Um, we dated. Um, so hold on, I was 25 when we met. We got married in 2020, so that would have been 29, I think. 28 or 29. I'm trying to think.
But there was a few years of that dating phase.
Yeah, we dated, we lived together. He was great with my little sister, which I did love because the boyfriend prior to him made me feel almost guilty for having custody of my sister. And so the fact that he was so involved, and then his daughter. Um, I met his daughter when she was 2 years old. And if you met her, she she's just a bubble ray of sunshine. And how can you not fall in love with that little girl? Okay. Um, so we actually got married for her. We were in the middle of a custody battle, so that way he could get more custody because he only had the standard typical dad schedule of every other weekend, you know. And he wanted more. So our lawyer looked at us. And at that time, her mother had already remarried. And so she's like, it was in Georgia, in the podunk town where there's only 5 judges in the whole county. Okay. And she goes, if you get one of these 4 judges, because you're living out of wedlock, and her mother is married, you will automatically lose. And she goes, so my recommendation is you get married first. And so I looked at DJ. He looked at me like eyebrows on. He's like, is that something you're willing to do? And I said, for Natalie, yes. And Let me tell you how romantic this wedding is. We went to the courthouse, filed the paperwork. It takes the 24 hours for the paperwork to come out. Um, and the next day on our lunch breaks, we went to the bank, got it notarized. There was no vows, no I love yous, no anything. Just on our lunch breaks. Cool, notarized. I said, I'll go run this back by the county office, gave each other a peck on the lips, and went our separate ways. That was our wedding. Um, it was a business transaction. And I didn't give birth to my stepdaughter, but I would still to this day, even though I haven't seen her in almost 3 years, I would give my left leg for her. Like, so not exactly probably the best reasons to get married, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not saying that I didn't love my ex-husband, but I was never in love
Mm.
with my ex-husband, if that makes sense. I've
Yeah.
always I've always been in love with his daughter though. Like she could do no wrong. If she were to call me up today and say I murdered somebody, I'd be like, where are we hiding this body, baby girl? Like wouldn't ask any questions. I would just go do it. Um, and in so we got married in 2020. Obviously COVID happened. I became I already was kind of the primary breadwinner, but it was very much more so then because I was in mortgage during 2020, and as everybody knows, the interest rates were freaking phenomenal. I was doing good. And so I think that put a little tension on the relationship. And then his back went out. And he had to have back surgery where he was down for 9 months. Um, which I understood. I was supportive, took care of him. However, we had discussed in those 9 months him doing going back to some kind of school, whether it was real estate school or some kind of other trade where he could do it online. Where because he was just sitting around for 9 months, he was like, yeah, so that way when I'm back up and running, I can be a step better.
Yeah.
And that never happened. It
Mm.
was 9 months of him watching anime and smoking pot on the back porch.
Mm.
And so I did have to pay a child one or two child support payments, and I think that once I started having to do that, the resentment in me really
Yeah.
really built up because I was like because it was 50-50. So I was already paying for everything at our house. She had her own room that I had redecorated for her birthday, and I was the one buying her clothes. I think the whole time we were together, he never bought a Christmas or birthday present. Like, so I was already doing it all. And then now I have to pay for her shit at her mom's house too. This didn't quite sit right.
Yeah.
And maybe that's wrong of me. I don't know. But I definitely started looking at things different when after he got cleared to go back to work, he was like, I don't want to go back to work. I was like, well, I didn't sign up for this,
Yeah.
okay? I'm
Yeah.
not a sugar mama by any means. Like I was doing well in mortgage, okay? Um, but as everybody knows, 2021 came and went, and then 2022, those rates started going back up. Like that, and that company that I was with at the time was the bread and butter was refi.
Mm.
So that those 2 years, we refied everybody we could refi. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Nobody's refining once rates are back up to 5%.
No.
Uh, and so I started looking for other jobs, obviously, because I was like, that's not going to be sustainable. Um, and I was working from home all that time too, so that's an important part. Um, and I took a job not working at home, actually in roofing sales. That's what got me into this business, actually. Um, so I wasn't home. I was working kind of weird hours, because the best time to talk to people at their home is when they're home. So
Yeah.
I'm knocking on their doors between the hours of 4 and 8. And he was home a lot. And I'll never forget when I came home. It was like 8:30, 9 o'clock from a long day of work. And he was like, I mean, so now I have to cook dinner. I'm sorry, bitch, what? Yes.
Mm.
Yes, yeah, you can cook dinner. It's not that serious. Um, and he was in a dark place and wasn't willing to get any kind of therapy or see anybody or talk about it. And so they're just that wedge that grew and that resentment, it just got bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Um, and then he started accusing me of stepping out of the in the relationship, which I never had. But if you're one thing about me is if you're gonna accuse me of doing something, well, now I'm about to fucking go do it. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, and I told him, like, I went to him many, many times. So my top love languages are are gifts, quality time, and words of affirmation. Right? Those are like damn near tied, those three. Um, and so I would tell him, like, hey, my cup is empty. I need you to fill it just a little bit, okay? To the point where quality time. I had made date night jar with like color coded popsicle sticks, free, cheap dates to expend like all the way to expensive dates, right? All he had to do is go pick a color. He refused. I'd gotten the scratch off adventure book. I don't know if you've seen those
Mhm.
ads on Facebook, but I
Yeah.
definitely fought for it. It's amazing, by the way. So if you're in a good, healthy, happy relationship, I definitely suggest getting that. Because they are like that, and they're also coded by priced. Because that was his thing. Well, we're broke, blah blah blah. Okay, but it doesn't cost any money to pack a picnic and go to the park or go walk the dam with me. Or like I'm begging for a little attention and
Just
he
be
and
present. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
he just he and I get hindsight being what it is, I get it's because he was in a dark place, but I was literally begging him to go to therapy and he was like, no, that's stupid. Okay, well,
Mm.
I'm out of options, right? Like I'm literally out of options now. And so ultimately what led me to take my ring off was on December 22nd of 2022. We got into this big fight. He was drinking and he tried to drive off. Like we were at the house and he tried to get in the car and I was like, "Fuck you. You can go walk, but you're not driving. Like you're not going to kill yourself or somebody else
Yeah.
because you're being stupid." Um, so I took his keys and then he tried to take my car. I was like, "No. You're not doing that." So I took both keys, hid them, and then I would like laid him down into the bed and I'd grabbed the gun out of his nightstand because he was being stupid. So I'd grabbed that gun out of the nightstand and I forgot about the rifle in the closet. And so then I'd like laid him down. He's like, I'm going to bed. I said, good. You need to sleep this shit off. Um, and I hear him rummaging around in the closet. I was like, I swear to the Lord right now, if that man is in this closet trying to get that fucking gun, I'm gonna lose it.
Mhm.
That's exactly what he was doing. As I started off, my dad committed suicide when I was 25 years old. That's not something I fuck around with.
Mhm.
Like we're done. Game over. Um, and so I called his parent. I took the rifle, I took everything apart, hid it, whatever. I put most of it in my car. Because I was like, all in pieces, right? And I call his parents and I was like, come get your son. I can't do this. Come get your son. Because he's a big man. My ex-husband's 6'4", 300 pounds. I can't manhandle that man.
No, big dude. Yeah.
He's a big dude. Like, so I called his parents. I was like, come get your son. I can't do this. And for me, I was already done. But when they walked in and he completely turned all that shit off and acted normal, I was like, you fucking
Mm.
I was like, nope. So I took my ring off. I looked at his father and I said, I will be filing for a divorce within the next week.
Hmm.
Granted, mind you, most people didn't know we were actually officially married because we were trying to have like a big wedding and all of that. Nobody knew we were actually married. So his dad was like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm done." And he was like, "Well, I hope you change your mind. You're the best thing that's ever happened to him, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "I'm glad you see that." He apparently doesn't. So I'm out. Um, I'd never put my rings back on. And Christmas morning, we were home, just him and I, because the next day was when we started our visitation for the week of New Year's with Natalie. Um, and like I told you, gifts is my love language, right? So we were broke, like not like broke, but we had set a budget for that Christmas, so that way things were. He went well over that budget, and then decided to ruin every Christmas gift for me by telling me how much everything cost. Like that was a dick move, bro. You didn't have to do that. So I'm opening this, opening up like so I'm a huge Dodgers fan, right? Go LA. Huge Dodgers fan. And like he had got me like a Dodgers clock. And so I'm opening up, he's like, that was $40. And I'm like, okay. And just little things. And he's like, that was this, that was this. And I'm like, okay, so now like why are you telling me this? You went way over budget. I've got bills that are due that I need to pay. And you're telling me that you wouldn't spend our like, are you trying to stress me out because it's working? And so we got into a huge fight over that, and he took off. Um, so I was like, well, I'm not gonna stay here alone at the house, sad with Christmas. Um, like I said, I already told him I was done. I'd already taken my rings off, and so I went and met up with a friend who was cleaning out his garage, and we cleaned out his garage, and other things may have ensued. Uh, um, and the next day, I was in the shower. We were getting ready because we had agreed we were going to play nice for Natalie because she was 8, 7, 8. She was only 8. She was 8 years old at the time. Um, so we are like, we're going to play nice. We were already planning on going to Kentucky to see my family. And I was like, we're still going to do that for her. We can suck it up for 4 days, right? Like, whatever. Well, while I was in the shower, he went through my phone and saw that some things may have happened. Um, I thought he was gonna beat my ass in the shower. I'm not even gonna lie. He did punch a hole in the wall, but luckily it wasn't me. Um, and he was like, if you promise to never see that guy again, then we can go on this trip. And so I was texting my mom the whole time, and I was like, Mom, I did X. This is the result. I'm trying to just make this as easy and because it's the holidays
Yeah.
for if it wasn't Christmas, I wouldn't have cared. But Christmas, like for an 8-year-old child,
Yeah.
it's a big deal. And my mom was like, so then just play nice. Agree to whatever, and then we'll figure it out in 4 days when you guys get back home. And I was like, that's okay. I'm gonna do that. And so that's what I did. I agreed to whatever he said. We drove up there. Um, and Natalie was so excited because she loves my family. We get in late because it's a 9-hour drive. So we get in late. We basically eat dinner, put Nat to bed, and I'm we're sitting on the couch. And so it's my dad. My dad is over by the fireplace. My mom's in her chair on the opposite side of the couch. My brother was somewhere in the middle, and then I was on the other end. It's a big sectional. And DJ was over by the fireplace with my dad. And my who I call my dad, by the way. This my family's fucked up. I know it's hard to keep up. But anyway, and they they basically adopted me when I was 18. But anyway, so sidebar. Um, and my ex shoots me a text message, and instead of just speaking, because we're in a room full of people, instead of just speaking, he's like, "I want to go home." Bro, first of all, it's a 9-hour drive, and we just got here, and we just put Nat to bed. Like what? Um, And so I looked at my phone, I put my phone down, and I said, if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it in person. I'm not going to do this back and forth. And so then my parents are like, what's going on? And I was like, he wants to go home. And then my dad was like, okay, so let's be logical about that. You want to go home. So all three of you guys are gonna pack up the car and go? He's like, that sucks. And I was like, I'm not going. He's like, okay, so what? DJ takes your car, but his name's not on it at all. And takes Natalie and then leaves you here for what? How do you get home? And he's like, or what? Somebody pays for a rental car and they drive home now? He's like, or we can suck it the fuck up and just go get some rest and you'll be fine tomorrow. And so that's what my ex-husband had agreed upon doing is the suck it up part. And as he was going upstairs, I was like, hey, can you do me a favor and throw me my phone charger? Because it's upstairs in the bag, whatever. And his response in front of my parents was, well, you got two perfectly good legs that you just spread for somebody else. You can go up there and get it. My dad was so pissed. And that's, again, in my mind, I'm done. I've been done. Told him we were done. I didn't cheat in my mind, right? That's how I justify it. Whatever. That helps me sleep at night. Okay. Uh, and my dad is a little man. Okay. He's like 5'7". We're like the same height. Okay. And so and to the 6'4" man, he's like, don't you dare talk about my daughter like that. I don't care what she did. You're not going to disrespect her in my house like that. And then my brother, because that's not who I am, he's like, that's not true. That's not true. That didn't happen. The fuck? And so it's chaos. Chaos has ensued. And I'm like, I'll just go get my phone charger real quick. um, everybody, 2 days later, we've had a pretty good week. We only have 2 more days to go. Okay. It's 2 more days. We're doing okay. Apparently not. In the middle of the night, he went through my phone, saw me talking with my mom about some of this stuff, and smashed my phone to smithereens. It looked like someone took a bullet to it because he like
Gosh.
threw it on a rock or whatever. Um, and I heard him rummaging around in the middle of the night, and I woke up and I was like, "What's going on?" And he was like, "We're leaving." And I was like, "Give me my fucking keys. You're not taking my car." And he hands me my keys, and my key fob and everything is on said keys. Okay, that's an important detail here. Um, and it's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And he goes and he wakes up Natalie, and I go to give her a hug. And this is the last time I saw her. I went to go give her a hug, and he rips her from my arms, and he looked at Natalie and he said, I don't want you to ever talk to or touch that lying whore again. That was the last time I saw her. Um, and so then I start crying, obviously, still an emotional thing. Um, and he said he'd gotten an Uber and his mom and dad paid for a plane ticket. And so I was like, okay, whatever. And so I take like a minute, I cry, take a minute, and I'm like, something doesn't feel right. I double check that my key fob is on my keys, and I go out there and my car is missing, which means he had planned this the whole fucking time and he took the spare key with him on this trip. We never took my spare key anywhere. That stayed at the house for emergencies. So he took the spare key. Not only did he steal my car that night, he went to the closest ATM, drained my personal bank account that he had no tie to, had my wallet, which had my license, which had everything in it. So I was left literally stranded in Kentucky with fucking no way to get home. Luckily for me, life worked out. My my other brother had come up from Nashville. That's where he was living at the time. Come up from Nashville to spend Christmas together, like to do our Christmas thing together. And he was not planning on heading home that night, but ended up everything happening. This was the night before New Year's Eve, that all this transpired. Um, but who I call my aunt and uncle, were visiting their sons in Nashville. They live here in South Carolina. So I call I called them to see if they were still in Nashville. They were like, yeah, we're leaving tomorrow morning. And so I look at my brother, I said, do you mind going home a day early? And he took me to them. And then they took me to South Carolina, where I was able to um, get my shit. This asshole, he turned in my license plate to the DMV just to make my life more difficult. There was no need to do that. Uh, and also, with what money am I supposed to replace this since you drained my shit? So I had to ask my grandma for money, which she willingly gave to me, but still, bro. Um, and then he wanted to keep the house that we were renting, even though he couldn't afford it. And I was like, you can't afford this house. He's like, it doesn't matter. I'm keeping it. Okay, fine. You can have it then. Fuck you. And my best friend, she was living in a 2-bedroom townhouse, and she's like, bedroom's yours. Come on. Um, and I was a little petty. Everything in that house, minus the couches and our master bed set. Everything else in that house I bought. So I took everything that I bought. I left Natalie's room alone. I wasn't gonna mess with any of that. But everything else in the house, so yeah, he came home to no dishes, no pots and pans, no table to sit at and eat. Sit on the couch, about the couch. Um, and on New Year's Day, the only thing I did to get, or New Year's Eve, on New Year's Eve, the only thing I did to get even, to get back. And this might be raunchy, I don't care. Um, the gentleman who I had fornicated with on Christmas, I had come over and I took off all the sheets on his bed and I squirted all over his fucking mattress and put the fucking shit back. It's the only thing I ever did to get back at him. Um, the divorce wasn't too bad. He wanted alimony. I told him to go fuck himself. Because bro, you're not getting alimony. First of all, we weren't even married long enough. But second of all, no. Um, so once he realized he wasn't getting any money from me, it was smooth. We didn't
Mm.
cut and dry pretty easy. But yeah, that's the story of my divorce.
That's a lot. It's a I mean, man, that's you definitely went through a lot. And I think it's interesting how you talk about all the things that happened, but I know at the beginning you said that like he's not a bad person, that you still care for him.
He's not a bad person. He was in a
Yeah.
dark place. I hope
Yeah.
that he's out of that dark place. I don't think that he is. I mean, I haven't, the last time I laid eyes on him was the divorce. And that was a virtual divorce, which I honestly was fine with. Um, and we were officially divorced September of last year. Um, so it was a long divorce, but I mean, he didn't look good, and from what I could see, so I hope for the best for him. I like the car that like the car both cars were in my name. His car I had paid cash for, and I was like, have it, just take my name off of it. Like people grow apart,
Mhm.
and I technically didn't break any vows because we didn't have any.
Yeah.
But the vow through sickness and health, I was there for him at his lowest. And daily he was telling me how much he wanted to blow his fucking brains out. And he refused to get help.
Yeah.
I did that for a couple of years. There's only so much that somebody like,
Yeah.
you know,
Unless you're willing to work on yourself, you're never going to change.
yes.
Yeah.
And
Like you can support him all you want.
yeah, and he wasn't. And he's a sweet guy. I think I hope for him. Think he finds somebody that's good for him, that not necessarily pushes him to be better because unless, like you said, unless they want it themselves.
Yeah.
But obviously, I wasn't the person that he was willing to be better for. So I hope he finds that. Like I still have love for him. Like I said, I was never in love with him, but I'm not. not a vengeful, like I'm not like,
Yeah.
fuck you, I hope you burn in hell. No.
Yeah.
I hope that you find somebody who's wonderful, that loves Natalie as much as I did. The only thing that I'm resentful for is the fact that he refuses to let me see her now. That I
Yeah.
was in her life for 7 years. That
Yeah.
I taught her, like, when I first really started getting involved with her life, she was 3 years old and she couldn't count to three. And I was like, I'm gonna fix that. And I did. She I taught her how to write her name. I taught her how to read. I taught her how to write, math, tie your shoes, swim, ride a bike, all the things that a mom would teach their daughter. I did. And that's the only thing that I hold any kind of resentment for. And I hope and pray that when she gets old enough, she'll find me.
Yeah. Especially
She'll
like,
forget me. I was in all of her core memories, you know?
yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Like, I mean, you were through those really critical stages of her life, and then, so what? She was about 10 then when everything went down.
She was 8 when everything went down.
Okay.
She will be 11 this year.
Okay. So
Yep.
like, that's the other thing too, is like you think about the perspective of the kid involved too, like going through all this with their father,
Well, and
and
he did some really shitty things, like through the grapevine, because we, for a while there, we had a lot of mutual friends. Now we have none. Like, people pick sides in the divorce. That's just how it
yeah,
is. Um, but through the grapevine for a while, I mean, I heard that he was like, "Hey, Nat, let's go burn pictures of Ashley together." You don't do that with an 8-year-old daughter. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry, you're like those type of things are like, and I get it. It's out of hurt. It's out of anger. Like, I get it.
yeah,
But as the adult,
yep.
you have to be the one to not.
You're just teaching someone bad habits. You're teaching
Yeah.
someone the wrong way to handle anything. Yeah,
Correct. And I mean,
yeah,
I know one of our mutual friends at the time, they had said, because I was teaching Natalie how to have a backbone. Because I have one. I have a very strong one. And I'm there would be times where I was teaching her, speak your mind. We may not agree, and that's okay. We can talk about why we don't agree, but stand up for yourself. And so there would be times where like her and I would get into it a little bit. I'm like, okay, tell me why that's your position, And so I was teaching that to her, and I guess there were a few times where he's like, oh, you're so much like Ashley. I wish you would stop that. Like, first of all, good job, baby girl. Proud of you. But also, don't say that type of thing to people.
yeah,
And maybe that was a red flag I overlooked, but that was something that he did with her mother consistently, and I had to, I I stepped in a lot with that and was like, you got to stop that. You and me, we can talk shit about her mom all day, not in front of her.
mhm, yeah,
When she's here, we say nothing but positive, nice things. Even if she's at like there was a time where she asked me, she just made a comment of, how come you do this different than mommy? And I said, well, baby, we were raised different. I said, mommy didn't have a mommy. Maybe that's why mommy doesn't do those things. I said, but I think mommy's doing the best that she can to be the best mommy, and she's learning.
yeah,
Like I was like, I'm learning too. I just had a mommy. There's the difference, and so yeah, I don't know. But he would always, and so I shouldn't have expected it to be any different if he was willing to do that with her own mother. But
yeah.
that's the only thing I hold resentment for, is that I wish that she wasn't drug into adult business.
Mhm. It's yeah, it's never good. So we've got a few minutes left. I kind of want to wrap up everything because I mean,
There's a lot.
there's a lot to unpack in there. But I think, for you, you can clearly see how you didn't really change in a negative way through the process, right? Like I mean, you have your values, you have your ideals, and you really stuck to those. And, every step of the way, even when he wasn't working, you were still there. You were supportive. You were trying to do everything you could. You were trying to support him, have him get help and stuff like that. You were taking care of the family. And, so it just deteriorated over time. Like you said, people grow apart. And so I think for you, it finally got to that point where you just realized you were done. It was enough. You put forth as much effort as you could. But like you said too, you were never truly in love with him. Though you cared for him, you loved him, you had, feelings for him.
Yeah.
Um, so you finally made that decision for yourself, really, to
Yeah.
choose a better life because you couldn't keep living that life anymore.
Yeah.
Which I understand it's draining trying to live for somebody else and
It
do
was my
everything.
mom. It was my mom's words really that I think solidified it for me because I was talking to her about this and she was like, okay, so Nat's 8. What are you going to do this for 10 more years until she's
Mhm,
18?
mhm,
She's like, and then what? And I was like, oof, okay, you're not wrong. She's like,
mhm.
you can't be in it for just her. And she wasn't wrong.
Um, so maybe just like maybe someone's going through a tough time. It doesn't necessarily have to be a divorce or a tough relationship, but somebody that knows that maybe there's something better or that this isn't the right situation for them, and you've done everything you can do. Um, what would be advice that you would give someone as to how to take that next step, what to do? 'Cause I know for you, you had a very good support structure. Like
Yes.
clearly you had family and friends around you that supported you and that were there for you, especially in the really hard times at the end.
Yes.
But yeah, what would you say to someone that's like maybe struggling just with something that doesn't have that support structure or that maybe they do, but they just need a different perspective.
First things first, if your gut tells you it's not right, listen. Don't try to convince yourself that this is the right thing to do. Uh, and also, support system or not, I mean, because Lord knows I have a big issue with like being a failure. Um, fuck their opinions. It's your life. You're the one who has to endure whatever it is you're enduring. So if you're at your rope, the end of your rope, let go. That's and only you can make that decision.
Mm.
There's nothing anybody can say that will change anybody's mind if they're not ready. And if people feel like they don't have a support system, because I don't know everybody has
Yeah.
different situations. There's so many support groups online that could help if you don't have actual physical family members or friends that are right there. There's there's so many support groups online and things like that nowadays that you can still get the help that you need if you just even if it's just a different perspective on your life. And therapy, man, like there I've been in and out of it over the last few years. Um and it's yeah, therapy. I recommend it.
We'll wrap it up there. I think that's great advice because the recording's about to end. Um, but yeah, I think that's great advice. And like you said, there's always support, right? There's if you really want it, it's
It's out there.
available. Yeah. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Insights into a Soul. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with a friend and leave us a comment on the podcast page. If you want to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram at insightsintoasoul_official or send us an email, insightsintoasoul@gmail.com.